Oi! Yes. What's happening, everybody? You guys, I'm so fired up to break down this UFC London card with you guys that is coming up this Saturday. There are so many goddamn good fights on this card. It's ridiculous. Bangers, violence, action. I can't wait to break it down with all of you guys. We got some opportunities on this card. I've already got a couple of big bets on this card, and I've got the stats for all 13 fights on this card. We're going to break them down one by one, give you all the angles on all of them, and as usual, we're going to finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. You're going to find out who I think is going to have the most dominant win this week. And it was really tough to choose. And there's a lot of really wide lines. So hopefully you like the pick. Hopefully that pick goes into the cage on Saturday with the razor, with the shaving cream, ready to shave it nice and close for you guys. Get a big win. What's up with everybody? What's up with all of you guys? Are you looking forward to this card too? Are you as fired up for this as your Uncle Weezy is? I hope so, because we got a lot of work to do tonight, you guys. 13 fights to break down. So let's get into it. We got my guy Daz Files is the first in the room saying smooth Jimmy in the house. You got that right. I even have to, on Tuesdays, I got to put on the smoking jacket for you guys, show that I'm professional, show that this is the sensual prelude to the Balls Deep breakdown, you guys. So I've got to look as sensual as I possibly can. Got the smoking jacket on for you guys. Smooth Jimmy, the consummate professional that he is, ready to break down these fights with you guys as well, right? 52% of the time, I'll have you know. So we're going to have some fun. We got TMN Extras saying, let's go, dude, let's do it. And we got Johnny Parsons in the room saying, pip, pip, cheerio. Let me see. I believe we are in for a proper arse shaving. Yes? Oh, yeah. You got that right, Johnny. You know that. Johnny, the true Englishman in the house. We got Eagle Clan saying, breaking it down like a boss. I appreciate you, Eagle Clan. Thank you for hanging out with us. We got my guy DFS by the numbers saying, oi. And let's see, we've got Lou Betya in the room, and he is saying, Johnny Parsons knows something about dishing out arse whoopings. Maybe Weezy can give us a good bet on who will get kicked in the cobblers this weekend. Yeah, we got the Yam Bag Whisperer in the room right now, Mr. Lou Betya, the king of the point deduction bets. And, we're going to have to try to find somebody that's going to get kicked in the yam bags here, because if we can, and we can get that 20-1 shot cash, and that's always a great way to gamble on Saturdays, baby. And it's, we do know that Lou is the king of that. And we got Papa Chuck saying, Unc, let's get this going. Best part of my Tuesdays is right here. I appreciate that. It's the best part of my Tuesdays as well, you guys. From the moment I wake up until about 10 o'clock Central Time, I'm doing nothing but watching tape, breaking down all these fights one by one, making sure I watch tape on every single one of them so that I can give you a nuanced breakdown on every one of these damn fights and find some bets, find some spots to cash so that we can stack cash tickets like flapjacks every damn Saturday that the UFC is in business, you guys. Papa Chuck, thank you for hanging out. We got Paul Brassfield saying, oi, I bid you all greetings. Let's smash it again this week. I'm with you, Paul. We got Chris for the love saying, oi, good looking cards next 2 weeks. Hell yeah. Eagle Clan saying, Ilia and Paddy, book it. We got Victor De Jesus, my guy, in the room saying, oi, yes. All right, Unc. I hope we're able to stay for the whole live. Work be tripping. That sucks, man. I hate when work is tripping, man. I'll watch the replay regardless. Let's make this money. Let's do it, Victor. Good to see you in here, brother. We got Matthew Chalk saying, oi, glad to be here. We got Owen Carroll saying, oi, 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 oi. And we got Joe Poeta saying, I looked at my face in the mirror on Monday. I didn't even have to read the whole thing, because this is what I said, you guys. If you bet on the Canetti-Moutinho fight and you're wrong, what's worse than being wrong is looking yourself in the mirror and saying either you bet on a 42-year-old Guido Canetti or you bet on Chris Moutinho. And this is what Joe has to say right here. I looked at my face in the mirror on Sunday morning and said, why? Why, God? Why bet on a punching bag like Matinho? And that's the problem when you bet some of the lower level UFC fights because it's a UFC card and you have so many high level fighters to bet on. When you bet on the low level ones and you get it wrong, boy, it stings. But you know what? I actually had in my greasy four-legger that I gave out on Twitter, I had the fight doesn't go to decision for that fight included in that parlay. And I hit 3 out of 4 legs like I do every goddamn week. Got a free bet this week because I always give you the ones that are eligible for insurance on FanDuel. At least it's 7-1 or better. So we'll try to find someone. We'll try to find one this week as well. But Joe, appreciate you joining us, brother. We got Jorge saying, what a car. We got my guy, the general, in here taking notes. We got just my 2 cents. We got Victor saying, yeah, Topuria said it. When I see Paddy, it's on site. And damn, he delivered. I just watched that little 25-second clip on YouTube of Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett having a little bit of a kerfuffle, just a little bit of words where I think they're throwing food at each other or something. I don't know, man, but those two cats do not seem to be liking each other. And they might, if they both get wins, boy, that would really be fun to see. Topuria versus Paddy, man. I'll tell you. Owen Carroll saying locked in. Volkov 4-5 decision at plus 330. Craig by sub plus 420, half a unit each. I love both of those bets, Owen. I think you might cash both of those. And then we got just my 2 cents in the room. We got my guy, Sir Marcus Mustard, in the building. We got Metalingus. Thank God, Weezy. This is happening at 9 p.m. Hell yeah, Metalingus. It's good to have you in here. We got King Bicky saying, Weezy, when are we going to discuss Bellator cards as well? Easy bags over there. Dude, since I do all the wow, my dog's pissed off right now. I think the cat and him might be going at it. But wow, he's pissed. Anyway, I don't have the bandwidth right now to do Bellator, but it's something that hopefully I can get into the rotation in the future. But as of right now, got a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire going on behind the scenes as well. So yeah, I'm going to be staying away from Bellator for the time being, letting the people who really have broken down those cards, who have seen most of the tape on those fighters, give you the information on that. I am concentrating strictly on the UFC, you guys. We got my guy Pascal Roshan, ring a ding ding, you guys, supporting his uncle Weezy. Much love to you, brother, for the very, very generous donation, saying let's smash the bookies, and let's absolutely do that. Let's punish them for mispricing lines, and let's make some money off of them this weekend by stacking cash tickets like flapjacks. And thank you for stacking donations like flapjacks for your Uncle Weezy Pascal. Much love to you, brother. Much love. And we got the Cuban Assassin saying, Weezy, let's stack these pounds like Keith Peterson stacks cartons of menthol 100s. I could not agree more. Awesome stuff, Cuban Assassin. Thanks for hanging out. We got the Silver Viking 999 saying, great card this week. Nice picks last week, Weezy. I hit a 5-pick parlay. You're the man. Oh, my God, Silver Viking. Love hearing that, brother. Love seeing those stacked tickets just go to the ceiling, man. Always good to see it. Love hearing people cashing those parlays, man. And shout out Tim Troiano, who had another incredible week last week. This guy is just like every week he emerges from the window with those 2 bags with the dollar signs on them, just like exploding out of there while the bookies just cry as he's cashing like parlays all over the place. Tim, big up yourself, man. You can always check out Tim with Tajik Bey and Sean Orr on the Twitter Spaces. They do great work over there, so check those guys out as well. Luke Bet, you saying, Weezy, we aren't calling it a Yam Bags bet this week. It's got to be cultural. Might be the Ghoulies special. I like it. Yeah, and we are in London, so we got to take note of that, Luke Betcha. And we got Strickland's burner in the room. Good to see you, brother. We got Lou saying, well, I bet on a 42-year-old to win by round 1 KO at plus 1,200. That's a great bet because it cashed, and it cashed big. Lou Betcha had a massive week on Saturday. Alex Ramirez saying, press the like button. Much love to you for saying that, General. Chris saying, Uncle Dana wouldn't let Ilia fight Paddy, yet unless somehow Yet, unless somehow Ilia gets slept or sub Saturday, protect the Paddy, but I'd love to see it. I'd bet Ilia. Yeah, so would I. Papa Chuck saying Bootsy is making my dog Ruby bark. Yeah, Bootsy was pissed there, man. It sounded like he was barking at the cat. Justin saying I will wipe my own ass. That's fine. Yeah. I'm going to gamble and do all England parlay of fighters. There you go. And then we got Tim saying, what's up, Weezy? What's up, Tim? I didn't see you were in there yet, but it's always good to see you in here, brother, man. Just cashing tickets, this dude. Just my 2 cents is no nonsense, definitely smokes cools. Yeah, I was thinking maybe the Benson and Hedges 100s, but those might be a little bit too classy for Keith. So cools or Newports is what I was thinking, man. Good call, just my 2 cents. Tim saying, thank you, Weezy. Learning so much from you and the fellas grinding each week. Yeah, man. I mean, we all learn from each other in this business, dude. I'm learning from everybody around me as well, and from the people in the chat who feed us some of this information that we have to take into consideration every damn week when we break down all these fights. It's a lot of work. And that's why I can't do Bellator, because just breaking down 13 fights properly every single week, never having a week off, you know, it takes it. You'd be surprised how much goes on behind the scenes just to make a show like this happen, you guys. But yeah, man. And then we've got Lou saying, I'm no Tim, but I do okay. Yeah, Tim. Nobody's Tim, dude. Tim's making the bookies cry, dude. And we got my guy Silver Viking, ring a ding ding with the $3 donation. Much love to you, brother. Thank you so much for supporting the show, Silver Viking. Love hearing guys like you cashing parlays out there, man. It's awesome. Yeah. Flip that, Lou. I'm no Lou, bet ya. And then Owen Carroll saying, got a little trigger happy last weekend. It ended up -7 units. Dude, sometimes, you know, bankroll management is the most important thing that we can learn along the way. And we've definitely got to learn our lessons along the way, because if we don't learn from our mistakes, we will be doomed to repeat them. And there's nothing worse than getting your ass shaved over and over and over again, doing the same dumb shit. So, and then we got to thank my guy Nandalal Razaya with a very, very generous donation for his Uncle Weezy. The juice is worth the squeezy, he says. I appreciate that, my man. Thank you. Ring a ding ding. Thank you so much, Nandalal, for the incredibly generous donation. I really do appreciate you, brother. Tony Trill saying, what's good, Uncle Weezy? What's good, Tony? Justin saying, I need some dogs with these beers this weekend. Please give us some good dogs tonight, please. Let's see what we can find for you, Justin. Dad's File saying, Lou versus Tim. It's like Superman versus Thor. And then we got Paul Brassfield saying, the Parlay King in the house. Good to see you in here, Paul. You guys, let's see if we can find another person in this house right here. And let's see if it is Mr. Smooth Jimmy Apollo. And Oxygen just saying, yo, Weezy, will you do some videos on betting strategies in the future? Are you the man? Yeah, actually, I would like to do something like that. I can talk about some of the things that I look at once I've properly back-tested some numbers. I could talk about strategies that we use from using past data to predict future behavior. And sometimes we can find some things in the data that really do correlate with statistical significance to either wins and losses, or either to finishes or fights going the distance. And whenever we find some data like that, it's always great to talk about how we came to that conclusion. So I appreciate that, man. So we're going to share my screen with you guys here and show you Mr. Smooth Jimmy Apollo, who's going to be ready to go. Let's see here. Yeah, the professional is in the building, you guys. I'm going to be sharing my screen. I am going to be sharing my stats as I always do here. And we've got all 13 fights here. Mokaev, Durden, Wood, Morales. And we go all the way along the bottom to these tabs, all the way to the left where we have the advanced stats tab, so that you can find the individual stats in here for each fighter. Here's Alexander Volkov's player card with his overall record, his finish wins, his finish losses. Here's how much experience he has in here. And then we go down here to the striking offense and striking defense, the grappling offense, the grappling defense, the DraftKings defense and offense, the FanDuel offense and defense, the strength of schedule numbers, and then all the fights. We got the records, the UFC records, that is, of all the opponents, whether he won or lost the fights, the control time numbers, the significant strikes, all this stuff. And then we got the defensive numbers over here to the far right. So you can see what people did against them as well. So as always, the link to these stats is it's in the description of the video. You can download them for free. Use them to help you make your gambling decisions every week. And we're going to start, you guys, with the very first fight of the night. And I mean, my God, I talked about how excited I am for this card. And for the curtain jerker, we're going to get treated to one of the most hotly anticipated prospects to hit the scene in the UFC here in a very long time. One Muhammad Mokaev is going to be fighting Cody Durden from Atlanta. And we've got Muhammad is only 21 years old, you guys. He's 9 years younger than Cody Durden. Both of these guys are 5'7". Let me see if they have finally updated Mokaev's reach here. Because it was not available earlier in the week. So, yeah, UFC Stats still does not have the reach for Mokaev. I don't know what it is. Excuse me. Sorry about that, you guys. So I've got my ticker there along the bottom. All these lines, if available on the website, are from Bet Online. Some of the fight doesn't go to decision lines that you'll see are from other websites because Bet Online hasn't opened them yet. But I'll be updating this ticker with every fight that we do here, so you'll see the lines on each fighter, and the fight doesn't go to decision lines. Okay. So Cody Durden's a southpaw. Muhammad Mokaev is an orthodox fighter. And we've got 16 professional fights for Cody Durden, 7 for Mokaev, at least 50 more minutes in the pro cage for Cody Durden. And you see that Muhammad Mokaev's pro career is only 1 year and 7 months, while for Cody Durden, it's 6 years. So definitely Durden's got the experience advantage here, and he's fought 3 fights at the UFC level, while this is going to be Mokaev's UFC debut. If we look at finish stats here, Mokaev has finished 4 of his 6 wins inside the distance, and for Cody Durden, 84% of his 12 wins are inside the distance. So I believe that's 10 of his 12 wins. So 5 submission wins for Cody Durden and 5 knockouts. And in Cody Durden's 3 losses, he has been submitted twice, knocked out never, and he's lost 1 decision. We don't have any stats on Mokaev. We see that Durden has landed 3.51 significant strikes per minute, and he's absorbing 4.11. He's got a 47% striking accuracy with no knockdowns and a sub 50% striking defense at 48.3% striking defense, and he's never been knocked down. Durden has been an active wrestler in the UFC, and that is his base. Cody Durden does have a wrestling base. He's attempted 25 takedowns in 3 UFC fights. He's gotten 9 of them. 36% takedown percentage. He's averaging 4.05 takedowns for 15 minutes, and he's controlling his opponents 39.5% of the time while only giving up 7% control time, showing 60% takedown defense on 5 takedowns attempted against him. Now, Mokaev does have, according to one site, 7 professional fights, another one 6. I guess one of them was an exhibition fight of some kind, but anyway, Mokaev has 23 amateur fights. He's undefeated as an amateur. He's an amateur world champion. Has a wrestling base. He's a Dagestani, and his wrestling is just excellent, you guys. But Cody Durden's wrestling is excellent as well. This Mokaev is an absolutely huge prospect, though, you guys. People have really been waiting for this guy for a very long time. Here he is. He's fighting at home in the United Kingdom. He's going to be fighting Cody Durden, who's going to be making that long flight, already made it over to London. So it's going to be, different time zones for him. He's going to have to deal with some jet lag. And he's going to have to deal with a young man with an endless gas tank who can wrestle at a high level for long periods of time. Mokaev is a big favorite in this fight, as you can see on the ticker on the bottom. And it's because of the hype. So we're going to have to see how Muhammad Mokaev handles this step up in competition. But actually, I think if you look at how many amateur fights Cody Durden has, it's probably Mokaev who has more professional fights. So Durden has 16 professional fights, but does he have any amateurs? Let's see here. In the amateurs, he's got 6 amateur fights. So he's got 22 professional fights. Actually, Mokaev has 23 as an amateur and then 6 or 7 as a professional. So actually more mixed martial arts fights, but that's splitting hairs. So what we have here is a good wrestler versus wrestler matchup to start the card. I like Mokaev here. I've liked everything that I've seen from him on camera. The problem is that the most recent footage for Mokaev is not available on the tape index. Some of these Brave fights are very difficult to find, and I think that that's on purpose. The only fight that you can find of his as a professional on the tape index is the Glenn McVeigh fight. The fight against Jamie Kelly, Brave 43, not available. Abdul Hussein, Brave 49, not available. Ibrahim Navzarov, Brave 51, not available. Blaine O'Driscoll, Brave 54, not available. But we do see in his fights in Brave that he's 5-0 and that he has finished 3 of those 5 wins inside the distance, 2 decisions, and then there was an accidental groin kick that was evidently, from what I heard, because I was unable to see it, horrific. But anyway, my pick, you guys, is going to be Muhammad Mokaev by decision here. I like the gas tank that I've seen from this guy. His wrestling absolutely looks to be next level. I think that Cody, while this fight is on the feet, is going to be probably just as good as Mokaev on the feet. But I think that, the wrestling and the gas tank are going to be the 2 biggest things that Cody's going to have to deal with here. And we've seen Cody gas out after the first round of a fight. Granted, the fight that he took on short notice, but this cut down to 125 pounds is rough for him. And we've seen Mokaev just have a seemingly endless gas tank while pushing a wrestling heavy game plan, you guys. So I'll be going with Muhammad Mokaev by decision. The very next fight that we have here is Nathaniel Wood against Vince Morales. Nathaniel Wood, the younger fighter here by 3 years. It's going to be Vince Morales, who's 1 inch taller and having a 1 inch reach advantage. Vince Morales out of the United States, taking this fight on short notice, you guys, taking this fight on less than 2 weeks' notice. Morales filling in for Ludwig Shalinian here. So Nathaniel Wood has a full camp while training for this fight. Vince Morales does not. Wood is going to be, like I say, 1 inch shorter, having a 1 inch reach disadvantage, but he's going to have a 6-fight pro experience advantage, and he's got about 15 more minutes in the pro cage and about 3 more years as a pro. These guys have similar experience numbers in the UFC. It's Vince Morales, though, who's fought a higher percentage of his career at the UFC level and has 1 more UFC fight and about 10 more minutes in the UFC cage. If we look at how these guys are finishing fights, Vince Morales definitely more of a knockout artist than a submission artist. And then Wood also knocking out his opponents at a 53% rate and submitting his opponents at a 29% rate. So Nathaniel Wood is finishing at about an 82% rate, while for Vince Morales, it's about at a 73% rate. And then if we look at the losses, Nathaniel Wood has been finishing 4 of 5 losses, and Vince Morales has been finishing 3 of 5 losses. So this is actually a fight that I think is a sneaky fight doesn't go to decision bet. And right now we got the fight doesn't go at minus 105. So I kind of like that. Whenever I see 7 of 10 combined losses inside the distance, that would be something that would correlate to better than minus 200 for a fight doesn't go to decision if you're capping it just based on the career losses inside the distance. And then if we look also in terms of wins, you got Morales with a 73% win rate and Wood with an 81% win rate or 82% win rate inside the distance. So a sneaky fight doesn't go to decision bet, in my opinion, here, especially with Vince Morales taking this fight on short notice and having to fly across the pond to do it. So when we look at the striking numbers here, you guys, it's Nathaniel Wood landing 6.28 and then only absorbing 4.36 and he's throwing a significant amount of more volume than his opponents are. 13.58 thrown, and his opponents are only throwing 9.42. So 46% striking accuracy. He's landed 1 knockdown in 6 UFC fights, and he's been knocked down once in 6 UFC fights. So he's been knocked down and is knocking people down at 0.22 times per 15 minutes. For Vince Morales, he's also outlanding his opponents, but not at nearly as impressive of a ratio as Wood is. 4.62 landed, 4.25 absorbed, 41% striking accuracy, but he's shown that he's had the ability to get 3 knockdowns in 7 UFC fights, and he's been knocked down twice in 7 UFC fights. So Vince Morales showing better power than Nathaniel Wood, but it's Wood who's landing at a better rate, having a better striking ratio and having more output as well. And also, he's been a little less chinny, being only knocked down once in 6 fights, while Morales has been knocked down twice in 7. And then if we look at the grappling numbers, Vince Morales is a former high school state champion in the state of Idaho in wrestling. So he does have a wrestling background, but he doesn't use it much in the cage. He's only attempted 4 takedowns in 7 UFC fights. He's gotten 1 of them, while Wood is getting his takedowns at a 46% rate, which is very impressive, getting 1.29 takedowns for 15 minutes and out-controlling his opponents at about a 17.4% to 8% rate. So he's out-controlling his opponents at about a 2-to-1 ratio when the fights do hit the ground, and about 25% of his fights are taking place on the ground. Showing 75% takedown defense is Wood, getting taken down less than 1 time for 15 minutes. So I like Wood's volume on the feet. I like his movement. I think he kickboxes a little bit more, while we usually just see Morales working with his hands a little bit more. It'll be Morales who has that power advantage, but I think that if Wood doesn't like how it's going on the feet, he can exploit this 50% takedown defense of Morales. And we do see that Wood does have quite a few submissions on his record. He's gotten 3 wins by submission out of 22, and we've seen him lock up some chokes in the UFC, having finished 3 of his 4 UFC wins by submission. So I think it's going to be fairly close on the feet, but I do think after seeing Wood really have a very impressive performance, showing his boxing skills against John Castaneda a couple of fights ago, or maybe that was the last one. No, that was 2 fights ago. I really liked that performance. I think if he can outdo Castaneda on the feet, he could probably outdo Morales on the feet. We've seen Morales really show a susceptibility to leg kicks, which could be troublesome here. And I like Wood's ability to potentially get this fight to the ground and threaten submissions. And we have seen that Vince Morales in his 5 career losses has been submitted twice. So I think Wood is a little bit better everywhere here than Morales. And we look at the strength of schedule numbers. Morales' ratio at 1.64 is a little bit better than Wood's at 1.32. But we see Wood is fighting the more experienced competition here. And when we look at the wins, I would say that the wins are just a little bit better for Nathaniel Wood than they are for Morales, but it's very close. And then when we look at the losses, Wood is losing to the much more experienced competition, while for Morales, he's losing to the better win-loss ratio competition. We see names like Ewell, Quinones, Dodson, Castaneda, and Kenny on Wood's resume here. While if we go over to Morales, it's Smoka, Draco Rodriguez, Chris Gutierrez, who really did a number on him, Benito Lopez, and Ayman Zahabi. So I like Wood here, you guys. I actually like him quite a bit. I think he could potentially get this done inside the distance late, but I'm going to pick Nathaniel Wood to win this one by decision, you guys. The next fight that we've got is Cory Poppins McKenna, otherwise known as the Hobbit, squaring off against Elise Reed. So we see that Cory McKenna only 22 years old, you guys, 7 years younger than Elise Reed. They're both 5'3". It's going to be Elise Reed with a 3.5-inch reach advantage here. We see Elise Reed fighting out of kickside martial arts, while it's team alpha male for Cory McKenna. This will be the home fight for McKenna, as she's Welsh, so the United Kingdom is where she's from, and Elise Reed will be coming over from the United States. So if we look at pro experience numbers here, we see Cory McKenna with a couple more professional fights, 15 more minutes in the cage, and about a year and a half more as a pro. So she'll be the more experienced mixed martial artist here, and she's had one more UFC level fight as well, and about 26 more minutes in the UFC cage. A 50% finish rate here for McKenna, a 50% finish rate here for Reed. Reed has been finished in her only loss, while Cory McKenna has never been finished. We don't have much in the way of UFC stats here, you guys, but McKenna landing about a half strike more per minute than she absorbs, and she's throwing about 2 more significant strike attempts per minute than her opponents are. 45% striking accuracy, 46% striking defense, and the Elise Reed numbers, you guys, we can kind of just throw them out. She took a Sijara Eubanks fight, on short notice. Elise Reed is a former atomweight. Sijara Eubanks is a former bantamweight. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Sijara Eubanks. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu white belt in Elise Reed. I think she probably got her first gi about 3 months before that Sijara Eubanks fight. So she went in there. She gave up. She got dominated. So we can kind of just throw out these stats for Elise Reed. They really don't mean anything. She'll be fighting somebody her own size on Saturday, which will be, I'm sure, a welcome relief for Elise Reed. But Elise Reed is a Taekwondo black belt, if I'm not mistaken. She's got nice striking. She's shown some power on the regional scene. She's CFC. She is the CFFC strawweight champion. And she does have 2 of her 4 wins inside the distance by knockout. But what we did see, and like I said, from a much, much bigger woman in Sijara Eubanks, and on short notice, but we did see Elise Reed's weakness in her game is her grappling. It's her takedown defense. It's her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu defense. And Sijara really kind of exposed that. And Cory McKenna is somebody who's a very good grappler and has a great grappling pedigree and who's been doing this for a very long time. She's going to be more experienced. She's going to be the far better grappler here. And frankly, Cory McKenna trains with far better competition. And I think the striking is actually going to be comparable here, you guys. But, Cory McKenna has spent, in her 2 UFC fights and 30 minutes of cage time, about 66% of her career, which is 20 minutes, in control time positions, either for or against, but she's still out controlling her opponents at about a 2.5 to 1 ratio. And she's fought 2 very good grapplers in Vanessa Demopoulos and Kay Hansen. And I think Kay Hansen's a brown belt, and I think Vanessa Demopoulos is at least a purple belt. Either way, Cory McKenna is going to have a very, very big grappling advantage here, you guys. And she can get the fight to the mat. Her wrestling is excellent. Frankly, I don't think Elise Reed is that much better in the striking than Cory McKenna, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cory McKenna even got the better of the striking exchanges on the feet. If we look at, the strength of schedule doesn't mean much here, but it's obviously Elise Reed who's fought the more experienced competition. The pick, you guys, is going to be Cory McKenna by either late first or early second round submission. So let's just move on here, you guys. The next fight, and I can't believe that this is not on the main card, but it isn't. It's just a fantastic fight on a card full of fantastic fights. You guys, Jack Shore versus Timur Valiev is an undercard fight, and it's not even close to the main card. We're really getting treated to a fantastic day of fights on Saturday, and I'm so fired up for it. Hang on just a second, you guys. Okay, so we've got Jack Shore, 5 years younger here, 2 inches taller and having a 4-inch reach advantage. So he's going to be the much bigger guy and the much younger guy at 5 years younger here in a division where age matters, but Timur Valiev not exactly over the hill, only 32 years old. It's Valiev who has the experience advantage here. 6 more professional fights for Valiev, 100 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 5.5 more years as a pro. It's Jack Shore, though, who actually has a little bit of an experience advantage at the UFC level with 1 more UFC level fight and about 15 more minutes in the UFC cage. Finish stats. Jack Shore finishing 90%. Is that no? It's 80% of his 15 wins inside the distance. 12 of 15 wins inside the distance for Jack Shore. And Timur Valiev has a 39% finish rate in 18 wins. And he has never been, well, he has been finished. In his 3 losses, he's been finished once, knocked out by Trevin Jones, while Jack Shore has never lost. Therefore, he's never been finished. If we look at the striking numbers for these guys, both are doing very impressive things in the striking. Jack Shore, 4.03 landed, 1.51 absorbed. And we got Timur Valiev with 5.35 landed and 2.79 absorbed. So both of these guys are landing more than 2 significant, well, all right around 2 significant strikes for every 1 that their opponent lands. But Jack Shore's got an even better ratio than Timur Valiev. And Jack Shore has been somebody that we've thought of as a grappler first. But if you go back and you watch that Ludwig Shalinian fight, the last one, he had a masterful performance with his striking. And we have to remember that Jack Shore, this young man, is only 27 years old. So we can still be expecting improvements from him. And we did see his striking really take the next step against Ludwig Shalinian. And he even had some good moments against Hunter Azure in the fight before that. But Timur Valiev, is going to be a much more challenging guy to win striking exchanges against than Ludwig Shalinian. So I don't want to get too out over my skis over how good Shore's striking looked in the last fight, but Timur has looked good throughout his entire career. And, in the 3-fight sample size here, 5.35 landed, 2.79 absorbed, 55% accuracy, 1 knockdown, all really good numbers. Shore's never landed a knockdown and never been knocked down. Shore definitely has a chin on him. But Timur Valiev has been knocked down 3 times in 3 UFC fights. So that's not good. Timur Valiev has shown the ability to be chinny here, you guys. In terms of grappling, we know what Jack Shore has done. In 4 UFC fights, he's attempted 36 takedowns, gotten them at a 41.67% clip, landing 4.47 takedowns per 15 minutes, and out-controlling his opponents 43% to 12%. That's like a 3.5 to 1 ratio for Jack Shore's control time. Timur Valiev is even controlling his opponents at a better ratio than Jack Shore, at like almost better than a 5 to 1 ratio, as he's got 32.5% control time and he's allowed 6.53% control time. He got a lot of control time, did Timur Valiev, in the Martin Day fight. So we see both of these guys have went to their wrestling, but really it's Jack Shore that we're probably going to expect to go to it more here, especially as good as Timur Valiev is on the feet and as much volume as he throws, as much variety as he throws. There's a lot of things to like about Timur Valiev's striking. And Jack Shore's striking looked to have taken the next step in his last fight. So we'll see if he's able to hang with Timur on the feet. And both of these guys, if you watch the footage on them, they're both guys who will go to their wrestling to win minutes. So this is going to be a great measuring stick to see where Jack Shore is at. Because I want to really be really careful about something here, you guys. And that's showing you the strength of schedule on the wins. We've got Jack Shore, who's 4-0 in the UFC, right? But the average opponent for Jack Shore has less than 1 win and 1 loss and less than 2 UFC level fights. So even though he's 4-0, we have to keep in mind who the wins are over. Nohelin Hernandez, Aaron Phillips, Hunter Azure by split decision in a very close fight, and then a complete clean sheet against Ludwig Shalinian. While Timur Valiev just beat one of the best bantamweights in Hani Barcelos, got a unanimous, really clean win over Martin Day, and really could be 3-0 if that Trevin Jones fight had been stopped. He was very close to stopping Trevin Jones, and he got caught with a left hook, or I mean with a right hook actually by Trevin Jones. So anyway, that is what's happening here with the strength of schedule. This fight is going to be tremendously close. If you want a more nuanced breakdown of this fight, check out the Balls Deep breakdown that I did last night on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. If you guys haven't subscribed to the MMA Engine YouTube channel, please do. The link to the Balls Deep breakdown is in the description of this video. You can go to the MMA Engine YouTube channel and check that out after the Just the Tip if you want a deeper look into this fight. I am picking Timur Valiev to win this one by decision, but it's going to be very, very close. And I really do think that this sees the scorecards, but it's a little bit juiced in terms of where we are on the fight goes to decision here, or at better than minus 200. So yes, that is going to be the pick, you guys. It's going to be Timur Valiev by decision. Let's move on to this next fight, which is another absolute banger. And first of all, I have to say, my man Silky B in here, ring a ding, you guys, donating to his uncle Weezy, showing some love. Much love right back at you, brother Silky B. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for donating to the show. And Silky B saying, buy Weezy a Paloma. I was just going to make one before the show, but I decided to go with water instead. I got amped up with some coffee before we started today so that I could go for the full 2 hours and give you guys a nuanced breakdown of every single one of these damn fights, because they all deserve it. They're all bangers. This is such a great card from top to bottom. Even the cat thinks so. All right. So let's see where we are here now, you guys. Paul Craig against Nikita Krylov. What an awesome fight this is. It's going to be Krylov, who's 4 years younger, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here. So he's going to be younger and have a little bit of a size advantage over Craig, and he's also going to have an experience advantage. Nikita Krylov, 35 professional fights at the age of 30. So he's been very active. He's got 20 more minutes in the pro cage and about 1 more year as a pro in comparison to Craig. And he's actually got more UFC level fights, 2 more UFC level fights, about 5 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Krylov is younger, have a little bit of a reach advantage, and he's got an experience advantage. It's crazy that Krylov isn't a better finisher than Paul Craig, because at 97% in 27 professional wins, you would think on the percentage that Krylov would be a better finisher than Paul Craig, but not to be outdone over here. Paul Craig with an 80% finish rate by sub, 20% by knockout, 100% of his wins coming inside the distance. So how crazy is this? We've got 42 combined wins for Krylov and Craig, and 41 of them have been inside the distance. Think about that. 41 out of 42. That's almost a 98%. I mean, that's incredible. If you were to price a fight doesn't go to decision line based on that winning percentage, you would be talking about pricing a line at 50 to 1. 50 to 1. I mean, that would be minus 5,000. And somehow this fight doesn't go to decision line, you guys. For 2 guys, like I say, 42 professional wins, 41 of them coming inside the distance. So Krylov and even in the losses, you guys, 4 losses for Craig as a pro, 8 for Krylov, 12 combined, 10 of them inside the distance. That's 83.33%. That's 5/6 of their combined losses have come inside the distance. So yeah, I mean, like this fight doesn't go to decision line, should be like minus 300 or something. And right now it is at, let me refresh the page and see if we can find where the fight doesn't go to decision line is here, you guys. Minus 186 on FanDuel. It's crazy. So I bet that as soon as I saw it, that would have been, I believe, late Sunday night, early Monday morning. I think I saw it around 2 or 3 in the morning. I've got 3.75 units on that bet in order to win 2 for the fight doesn't go to decision for Krylov Craig, because both of these guys are such amazing finishers. And then 10 of their 12 combined losses have also come inside the distance. So they're both killer be killed fighters. They're both all action fighters. And I fully anticipate this one to finish inside the distance. The other big bet that I've got, you guys, which isn't that big, it's a 2.2 unit parlay to win 2. It's Mokaev's money line and McKenna's money line. So that's all the action that I have so far, but I'm going to be looking to add some bets to this after we're done with the show tonight. But Krylov has the size advantage. He's younger, and he's also got a little bit of an experience advantage here. In terms of the striking numbers, you guys, Krylov lands 4.33 and only absorbs 2.52. 56% striking accuracy is excellent. 3 knockdowns in 14 UFC fights is very good. And he's getting 0.45 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And he's been knocked down only once in 14 UFC fights. While Paul Craig is a little less accurate and a little less volume. He's landing 2.59, absorbing 2.39. 51% striking accuracy, 1 knockdown in 12 UFC fights. And he's been knocked down twice in 12 UFC fights. So neither of these guys are what I would call chinny, but neither of one of these guys really have crazy power for the division either. What they both do is spend a lot of times in control time positions. If we look, Craig gets about 38% on him and gets 22%. So about 61% of his fights are taking place in control time positions. And for Krylov, about 68% of his fights that are taking place in controlled time positions. So for somebody in Paul Craig that's getting as many submissions as he is, 12 of his 15 pro wins inside the distance by submission, it's good to see if you're on the Paul Craig side and you like the plus money on the Paul Craig side, that this guy that he's fighting in Krylov also spends a ton of time in control time positions, which is going to make that submission potential for Paul Craig very live. Because Krylov, even if he wanted to stop the takedowns, he's got a 55.8% takedown defense over a 14-fight sample size. And that's only in 43 takedown attempts against. So it's not like he's only seeing 3 takedown attempts per fight against him. Yet he still has been taken down 2.82 times for 15 minutes and given up over a third of his UFC career being controlled. So I do see some opportunities here for Paul Craig. And, I mean, don't forget, Krylov has got a ton of submissions in his own right. 27 wins by submission, 56%. So that's 14 wins by submission in his career by Nikita Krylov. So, obviously Krylov could sub Craig here too. So this fight, I love it to finish inside the distance. I love it to be a grappler's delight. I think the striking exchanges will be fun, but I mean, I don't think it's going to take long for these guys who both spending over 60% of their UFC careers of a 26-fight combined sample size. This is going to the ground, you guys. It's going to the ground, and it's going to be so fun to watch when it does, because both of these guys have got serious grappling chops. So let's talk about the strength of schedule on this one. The ratio, almost identical, but it's Krylov who's fighting the more experienced competition. When we look at the wins, the ratio better for Craig, but it's Krylov who's beating the more experienced competition. So the average record of a guy that Craig beats, 4.71 wins, 3 losses. The average record of a guy Krylov beats, 6.38 wins, 5.38 losses. So better win-loss ratio for Craig's wins, more experienced competition is what Krylov has beaten. And then when it comes to the losses, Krylov losing to the better competition here with an average record of 8.5 wins and 5.33 losses. We see these names: Pavlovich, St. Preux, Teixeira, Walker, and Ankalaev for Krylov, while we see Jamal Hill, a huge win for Paul Craig. But then, an old man, a man with no cardio, and Andy Gulov, another old man, and then Vinicius Mojera. So definitely Krylov coming into this fight having fought the much better brand of competition. went to a split decision with Glover Teixeira and really was on the ground and in a couple of bad spots with Glover that he got out of. So it's going to be a very interesting fight. I love the fight doesn't go to decision. I think you should too. In this fight, I am going to be picking Paul the Bear Jew Craig to get a win by submission here. But man, I think that the best way to play this is to just bet that Paul Craig submission prop, because I don't think he'll be a minute winning grappler. I think he'll be a moment winning grappler here. Krylov will be able to stay safe at times. I think if this goes to the decision, you're going to see Krylov winning the fight. But Paul Craig by submission, you guys, is plus 420 on FanDuel, and I think there's all kinds of value there. I think that's his win condition for this fight. So if you're on the Craig side, I think playing him by submission is a great way to go. If you're on the Krylov side, maybe just bet that money line at about minus 175, minus 180. But I love the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 186. You guys, if you have access to FanDuel Sportsbook, you should be smashing the shit out of that, because it is, I mean, just look, even minus 186 based on the finish rate for the light heavyweight division, which is 63%, is like on brand. And then you add in, that there are 43 combined wins and 42 of them have been inside the distance. Come on, son. Get on it with your Uncle Weezy. That's one of the bets of the week. And I put my money where my mouth is. I got 3.75 units on it, you guys. But you guys, I'm going to be picking Paul Craig to win this fight by submission, and I would bet him to win by submission, but just a sprinkle. I'm just really looking forward to this fight. I do have a huge bet on it finishing inside the distance, and other than that, I'm not particularly confident about which one of these guys will be the one to get it done, but I love that fight. And then my guy, Shamil Abdurakhimov, one of the most handsome Tapology pictures going today, you guys, and we've got some great Tapology pictures. I mean, look, we've got Paddy Pimblett today, and that is a great Tapology picture there, you guys. Look at that young man. Look at that beautiful head of hair. That's a great Tapology picture. And then we've also got a great Tapology picture in here. I mean, maybe the most legendary one, period. One Makwan Amirkhani right there. Look at that player, Mr. Finland. Oh, and by the way, speaking of the other Mr. Finland, who I don't think is watching live right now, but my guy Jarno Portilla, congratulations to my guy Jarno. Him and his wife just had a healthy baby girl. Shout out Jarno when you listen to the replay on this. My Mr. Finland, Jarno Portilla. Much love, much blessings to your family. Best of luck to you going forward. So we got the Makwan Amirkhani, awesome Tapology picture, but you guys, one of the most underrated ones has got to be, look at how handsome Shamil Abdurakhimov is in his blazer. He's got the belt. He's showing you that fist, which is going to knock you out. Shamil Abdurakhimov making his return to the cage, you guys, after getting starched by Chris Daukaus, coming out here to fight a guy who's a really, really terrifying looking human being. His name is Sergei Pavlovich, you guys. And this guy has an Easter Island, statue head. Look at the size of this dude. He's got an 84-inch reach. He's an absolutely terrifying looking human being. And he's only 29 years old. Pavlovich is a big-time prospect here. So let's get this on the board for you guys. So you see the lines here. But Sergei Pavlovich is 11 years younger than Shamil Abdurakhimov. Abdurakhimov had a couple years off in between the Daukaus fight and the fight before that. He had a problem with a punctured lung, and he had pulled out of 3 or 4 fights in that time period. So it was good to see him make his return. And he was looking pretty good until Daukaus caught him with that left hook. He was kind of hypnotizing Daukaus a little bit and landed some nice shots. It was a close fight. But then Daukaus changed it with one punch and then finished him in the second. Both of these guys are 6'3", but look at that, an 8-inch reach advantage for Sergei Pavlovich. And he is a southpaw fighting out of Eagles MMA, and it's Paris Vet FT for Shamil Abdurakhimov. Abdurakhimov with 11 more professional fights, about 130 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 7 more years as a professional fighter. And he's got 6 more fights at the UFC level and about 85 more minutes in the UFC cage. So while Pavlovich is younger and the much bigger human being here, it's going to be Shamil who's got more mixed martial arts experience. Sergei Pavlovich with a 79% finish rate in his 14 wins. So that is 11 of 14 wins, finished inside the distance, every single one of them, you guys, by knockout. And Shamil Abdurakhimov has a 65% finish rate. He's finished 13 of his 20 wins inside the distance. And that would be, I believe, 13. So 4 by submission and 9 by knockout. So, and he's been finished in 5 of his 6 losses. And Sergei Pavlovich has been knocked out in his only career loss. So when we add up the 7 career losses for these two guys, 6 of them have been finished inside the distance. And then when you look at the fight doesn't go to decision for this one, it's pretty clear the bookies also believe that this fight will not be seeing the scorecards. The striking numbers, Abdurakhimov absorbs just a little bit more than he lands. He's kind of low volume, only throwing 5.78 while his opponents throw 6.53. He does have 2 knockdowns in 9 UFC fights, and he's been knocked down twice in 9 UFC fights. So he's got good power numbers. He's kind of chinny as well. Sergei, on the other hand, has landed 2 knockdowns in only 50 punches landed. So he's got some serious power, landing 3.93 knockdowns per 15 minutes over his very short 3-fight UFC career. 44% striking defense is very concerning, but he did fight Alistair Overeem, who's got like a 75% career striking accuracy. So just something to keep in mind there. Abdurakhimov has attempted 29 takedowns in 9 UFC fights. So he's been kind of active as a grappler, but he's getting them at less than a 25% rate here. And he's only gotten 13.36% control time in 9 UFC fights. So that is about maybe, I would say about 11 to 12 minutes of control time on those 7 takedowns. But if you look, it's not really his game. If we go to the advanced stats, you guys, and just kind of take a look, because I think some people think that Abdurakhimov has the potential here to get takedowns in this fight and maybe win some minutes on the ground. Now, when I watched the regional scene footage on Pavlovich, I did see him stuff a number of takedowns. Now, this is Shamil Abdurakhimov's career numbers here. We see the wins against Topuria, Arlovsky, Chase Sherman, Walt Harris, and Anthony Hamilton. Now, in the Arlovsky fight, he had 206 seconds of control time out of 900. And in the Derek Lewis fight, he had 450 seconds of control time out of 1,122. So he was able to get, in those 2 fights, Arlovsky and Lewis, he was able to get 6 of the 15 takedowns that he went for. So 40% takedown accuracy, and he got 650, so a little over 10 minutes of control time in those 7 rounds. So that's as good as he's ever done in the UFC, and that's against Derek Lewis, whose takedown defense is terrible, and Andrei Arlovsky, who probably just wasn't expecting it, to be honest, but even Andre got a couple of takedowns against him. So if you think he's going to win enough minutes to win a decision, I really don't see that happening here. I mean, if you throw out those 2 performances, you'll see that he was 1 of 14 on his takedowns outside of these 2 fights here against Arlovsky and Lewis. So if we go back to the numbers here, you guys, so we do see that Abdurakhimov, has spent about 25% of his UFC career in control time positions for and against. And Pavlovich was taken down and controlled by our what's his name? Overeem. So that's how he lost here. He was taken down once in that fight, controlled for it looks like about a minute and a half, because it's 25% of about a little bit less than 8 minutes. So between a minute and a half and 2 minutes here. But that's how he lost that fight. If we look at the strength of schedule numbers here, You see that the Abdurakhimov is beating heavyweights with a winning record and that are very experienced, 8.6 wins, 8 losses. He's losing the guys that have excellent records of 7.75 wins and 3.25 losses. And we see he's fighting a really high level of competition here. While Pavlovich lost to high level competition and then beat some low level competition with wins over Marcelo Golm and Maurice Green. But dude, this guy's got crazy power, and he was Fight Night's global champion before coming to the UFC, fighting some really tough Russians over there. If we look at Sergei Pavlovich's experience here pre-UFC, you will see in Mikhail Maktanin, 9-1-2, he got a win over him. Kirill Sedelnikov, 11-4, win over him. That Kirill Sedelnikov is a Sambo world champion. Doesn't look like much when you look at him. He looks like Roy Nelson, but he's he stuffed a number of takedowns from Kirill. So I've seen guys try to take this guy down. He's fighting, Russians in Fight Night Global. Look at this. Fight Nights. And he was their champion before coming to the UFC. So I don't think that Shamil is going to be able to take down Sergei. I think when it's on the feet, Sergei is going to be the guy that just has that crazy power. He's got these fists that are like canned hams. They're huge. And Shamil's getting old, man. He pulled out of a lot of fights before this one. Punctured lung. Really looked like Dawkins put him on Dream Street a couple of times. I think that this is going to be Sergei Pavlovich. Sergei Pavlovich inside the distance, you guys, I think is the best way to look at this. The line on Sergei Pavlovich inside the distance is, the best we can get is like minus 225 on Bet Online, and on 5 Dimes is minus 195. If you can get it anywhere around minus 200, it's probably the best way to play this. He should finish Shamil Abdurakhimov, especially the way that this guy hits. So he's only been to decision a couple of times in his pro career. The pick is going to be Sergei Pavlovich by first round knockout, you guys. The next fight, this is one, man, I looked way into this fight. It's a fascinating wrestler versus wrestler fight. Let's pray it doesn't become a striking match, because if it does, it's going to suck. But if these guys wrestle, and believe me, they're going to wrestle. They want to prove to each other which one of these guys has the better wrestling chops. And I can't wait to check it out, you guys. Mike Grundy versus Makwan Amirkhani. Just wanted to say welcome to Joint Smoker. Your kind always welcome here on Uncle Weezy's Just the Tip, and always welcome on Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel. Joint Smoker, my man. Shamil going out again. I agree with you. Just my 2 cents. Shamil is more than likely getting switched off. I tend to agree. Okay, you guys. So we got Grundy at minus 175. Makwan Amirkhani plus 150. The fight doesn't go to decision. Plus money here, you guys. So we see that Mike Grundy is actually the older guy here. So Amirkhani, 2 years younger, 3 inches taller, same reach, and Amirkhani is a southpaw fighting out of SBG Ireland. Mike Grundy fighting out of Team Kauban, he is a teammate of Tom Aspinall and Darren Till. It's going to be Makwan Amirkhani, 8 more professional fights, 70 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 4 more years as a pro. And he's got a lot more experience at the UFC level with 8 more UFC fights, about 70 more minutes in the UFC cage. Mike Grundy finishing 75% of his fights inside the distance. Makwan Amirkhani finishing 75 of his wins inside the distance. And it's Amirkhani who's been finished in 3 of his 7 losses, and Grundy's been finished in 1 of his 3 losses. In the striking numbers, we see that Grundy, very inefficient on the feet. He can definitely be inaccurate on the feet, and it was the Evloev fight in particular where he was just getting outlanded like 20-5 every damn round. Evloev really styled on him. He lands 2.14 and absorbs 4.56, so not very good here. a 46% striking accuracy. He has landed a knockdown, and he's shown a 56% striking defense. But what's concerning is the 10.4 significant strike attempts his opponents are throwing, while he's throwing less than 5. So his opponents are throwing way more volume on the feet than Grundy is. Now, Amirkhani is still getting landed by over 1 significant strike per minute here. He only lands 1.37 and absorbs 2.43. He's being out-thrown by his opponents by 2 significant strike attempts per minute and showing about the same striking accuracy and a little less power than Mike Grundy. He's also been knocked down, it looks like 6 times. 6 times in 11 fights has Makwan Amirkhani. So Grundy's showing some power. Amirkhani showing the ability to be chinny. So we could see Grundy get a knockdown here if he does land a big shot. But what's really fascinating about this fight is the grappling, you guys. Both of these guys, Mike Grundy and Makwan Amirkhani, masters of the front choke series. I believe Mike Grundy's first 3 professional wins coming by Darce choke, and Makwan Amirkhani, a guy who has a really, really nasty anaconda choke and Darce choke and guillotine choke, any kind of front chokes, Makwan gets them and he finishes fights with them. So it's great to see these guys with similar weapons square off against each other because they're both great wrestlers. We got Mike Grundy, who's actually got a pedigree being a Commonwealth Games medalist, and Makwan Amirkhani is a lifelong wrestler as well. But we look at Grundy's record here, you guys, and you see all the submissions: arm triangle, key lock, guillotine choke. The win against Nad Narimani was a knockout, and he was actually on Elm Street for about a second. Shout out Boston Nick, and he wound up coming back and getting the knockout over Narimani. But look at these first 3 wins here: Darce choke, arm triangle, and then he lost by triangle choke to Damian Stasiak, UFC veteran. He's even got 4 amateur wins. Does Grundy. And Amirkhani, we got to look at the picture one more time. There's Mr. Finland, ladies and gentlemen. And we see that he's won fights. Rear naked choke with the flying knee and punches against Andy Ogle was his UFC debut, and that was so much fun to watch. He has a win by heel hook. And then the Danny Henry one was an anaconda choke. He got the anaconda choke against Chris Fishgold. So both of these guys are active wrestlers who work that front choke series. And I think both of these guys are going to want to get that on each other. Grundy, 38 takedown attempts in 3 UFC fights. That's like 13 takedown attempts per fight. Amirkhani, 69 takedown attempts in 11 UFC fights. So over a bigger sample size, he's averaging 7 takedown attempts per fight. It's Amirkhani who's getting them at a higher percentage, and it's Amirkhani who's gotten a higher percentage of control time off of the takedowns that he's gotten, as he's over a big sample size is out-controlling his opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio is Amirkhani, 36% to 20%, while Mike Grundy has got 15.74% control time for and 2.98% control time against. But when you watch the regional scene footage on Grundy, you see this guy, he's shooting in the first 10 seconds, getting the takedown, and then if he's not getting the submission, he's riding out 3 rounds of control time. So Mike Grundy, excellent top game, excellent wrestling to be able to get to that top game, great top control. And when his opponent tries to get a little bit irresponsible to try to get back up to their feet, he's definitely got the threat for the submissions. And Makwan Amirkhani has grappled with some really good fighters here in the UFC. And we've seen him over and over and over again get tired, but still be able to push a pace late in fights and get reverses late in fights, get takedowns late in fights, really make it a greasy grappling affair. This one's just going to be back and forth grappling the whole time. If we look at, and it's really important to mention here, Grundy's UFC debut was against Nathaniel, he got that knockout win. Then the next fight was against Valiev. He won that first round against Valiev, you guys. He got 2 takedowns in that first round, almost got him with one of those Darce chokes that he's known to get. Man, Grundy was close. He had Valiev in some serious trouble here. But we look at the ratio for these guys, almost the same. The total fight's almost the same. The win's a little bit better for Grundy, with a 2 ratio to less than 1 for Amirkhani. So Amirkhani's wins haven't been impressive thus far in the UFC yet. But the losses are against guys with 2 wins for every loss, 6 wins and 3 losses on the average, a 2.0 ratio, while Grundy losing to guys with an average record of 3.5 wins and 2.5 losses. So I think that this is going to be a close fight, you guys. Makwan Amirkhani on a 3-fight losing streak, Mike Grundy on a 2-fight losing streak. Both great wrestlers, both average strikers, but Amirkhani's younger, taller, more experienced, and has fought the better brand of competition. I'm going to go with Amirkhani to win this fight. I think it goes to decision. I think it's going to be very, very close, but I do believe that Makwan Amirkhani at plus money, you guys, is not a bad look here. Plus 156, and you guys, the line movement, he opened at minus 110. So I see this as being a very, very close fight. And the bookies kind of open the line where I kind of see it. But now we do see, Mike Grundy, all that money is coming in on him. People probably watching that footage against Valiev, which was a fantastic performance. I think it's going to be close. I'd rather be holding the plus money ticket when this thing does go to decision, because I don't think either one of these guys is going to be able to submit the other. And I think that their wrestling for MMA is very, very good. Close fight. I'll take the plus money on Makwan Amirkhani, you guys. Next fight is the last fight before the main card. And what a banger. You got a guy in Ilia Topuria who's getting into food fights with Paddy Pimblett. And then we've got the Black Country banger, Jai Herbert. So it's going to be Topuria here, who's taking this fight on short notice, you guys. Jai Herbert was supposed to fight Mike Davis. What a shame. That was going to be such a good fight. But it is going to be Topuria, 8 years younger, but Jai Herbert here is the natural lightweight, 155-pounder. He's going to be 6 inches taller and have an 8-inch reach advantage. Both of these guys, orthodox fighters. Herbert, 3 more pro fights, about 40 more minutes in the pro cage. And both of these guys they both had their first pro fight 1 week away from each other. So they've both been pros for exactly the same amount of time. They both have 3 UFC fights, similar amount of UFC cage time. Topuria, a 91% finish rate. Jai Herbert, a 91% finish rate. These guys have combined finished 20 of their 22 combined wins. And in their losses, Jai Herbert has been finishing all 3 of his losses. Ilia Topuria has never been finished because he's never lost a fight. So this is one of those places where a fight doesn't go to decision, is pretty much an auto bet. But unfortunately, the bookies are all over it, sitting between minus 350 and minus 400 and minus 450. So that's a shame. I would have loved to have seen it much better than that. But the fight doesn't go to decision will be a great parlay piece this week if you're looking for one. In terms of the striking, you guys, both of these guys showing a shit ton of power. 3.85% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed for Jai Herbert. 1.61% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed for Topuria. Jai has been knocked down once in 3 UFC fights. Ilia Topuria has never been knocked down. Jai showing an irresponsible 44% striking defense, while for Ilia Topuria at 65%. So both of these guys are very dangerous on the feet, but it's Jai Herbert who's going to have the 8-inch reach advantage, the 7-inch height advantage here, and he is the much cleaner striker. Ilia just throws heat, and he is nasty, and he's got great body punches, and he does walk forward. So the fact that he walks forward will probably help him here on the feet. He doesn't want to stand in front of Jai, let Jai get his feet planted and throw those straight Bs down the middle, because Ilia will be in trouble if that happens, because he's going to have a hard time closing the distance here if he's not pressuring Jai Herbert. But while Jai Herbert is so dangerous on the feet, and I think more dangerous than Ilia Topuria, when it comes to the ground game, it's not even close. Ilia Topuria is going to drown this dude if he gets it to the ground. And Topuria has done a very good job of that, controlling his opponents for 42% of his UFC career, only being controlled 13.7%, showing 100% takedown defense and 55% takedown accuracy. Now, Jai is a striker. He wants to keep the fight standing, so he's never even attempted a takedown. But he's showing 30% takedown defense, and he's been controlled 45.63% of the time. So Ilia Topuria should absolutely be able to get this fight to the ground, and he is taking it on short notice. So if he does do that, he's going to want to make the best advantage of the takedown that he does get and try to get the submission as fast as possible, because the longer this fight goes on and the more times that a round starts and this fight starts on the feet, the fact that Ilia is not the natural lightweight, the fight that he's taking it on short notice, will make this a little more, nerve-wracking for those of you holding Ilia Topuria tickets, especially at the current line. So I'd rather bet the fight doesn't go to decision at this line than bet Ilia Topuria at this line. So I think that's the best way to play this, because Herbert is so dangerous and because Ilia Topuria is minus 450, but because the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 450, that kind of covers both sides. It covers the fact that Ilia maybe gets tired late in the fight just in case he wasn't in the best shape because he took the fight on short notice. It covers the fact that he's coming up a weight class here. It's coming, the fact that Jai was on a full camp and Ilia isn't. So while I do believe that Ilia Topuria, if he fights smart, should easily take this fight to the ground and either finish it there or at least win enough minutes there to win a decision, I think the safest way to play this fight is just, if you're thinking of parlaying Ilia Topuria, why not just parlay the fight doesn't go to decision? That way you cover the fact that Ilia might slip on a banana peel here. But you guys, I am going to pick Ilia Topuria to win by first or second round submission here. I think he gets it done fairly easily. But Jai Herbert is so dangerous that I don't think that you want to just say that this is going to be Topuria all day. There's a couple of other factors here at play. And look at even Ilia beating guys with, a 3.33 win-to-loss ratio. That's about as high as it gets. And Jai is losing to studs here with an 11.5 and 6 record. So those losses to Moicano and Trinaldo, he's definitely lost to the, competition that's better than the guys that Topuria has beaten. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic fight here. Great way to get us prepared for the main card. And here we go, you guys. But before we go there, we got my guy Addicted to Combat in here. Ring a ding ding, donating to the show. Much love to you, Addicted to Combat. Really appreciate the donation. Appreciate you hanging out here and supporting the show. Let's get back to business, you guys. All right. So the banners now. I didn't even get the last banner up. So Ilia Topuria minus 425 on BetOnline. Jai Herbert plus 325. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 350 on one of these sites. But you're probably not going to do much better than minus 400 on the books that are widely available right now. But the next fight, and the one that we're going to start off the main card with, is Molly Meatball McCann squaring off against Luana Carolina. So Luana Carolina is 3 years younger and is going to be much bigger here, being 2 inches taller and having a 7-inch reach advantage. It's Molly McCann who has 5 more professional fights, though, and 80 more minutes in the pro cage. But the length of their pro careers is actually the same. It's just that Molly McCann's been a little more active, fighting more than 2 times a year, while it's been about 1.5 times a year for Luana Carolina. 2 more UFC level fights and about 36 more minutes in the UFC cage for Molly McCann. It's Molly McCann who has a 36% finish rate, Luana a 38% finish rate, and in their 6 combined losses, 2 of them have been inside the distance. Both of these ladies have only been finished by submission. We've got some pretty nice striking numbers for both of these ladies. Molly McCann lands 0.8 more significant strikes per minute than she absorbs, landing 5.67, absorbing 4.87. Her opponents throw more volume than her, but she's showing a 65% striking defense, which is very good, solid 50% striking accuracy. She's never knocked down her opponents, and she's never been knocked down. And then we got Luana Carolina landing 4.5 significant strikes per minute and only absorbing 2.85. So more than 1.5 significant strikes landed for every one absorbed for Luana Carolina. She's got one knockdown, and she's never been knocked down. But a sub 50% striking defense is a little bit concerning here. Molly McCann has definitely been a lot more defensively responsible. And the other thing that I want to mention about Molly McCann is her last fight against Ji-yeon Kim, she was at a 10-inch reach disadvantage. 10 inches. You almost never see that, right? But what she did is what you're supposed to do whenever you're at that big of a size advantage. You need to walk down your opponent. And that's never going to be a problem with Molly McCann. She fights in a way that hides the fact that she has a short reach for somebody her size and in this weight class. So Molly McCann, even though she's at a 7-inch reach disadvantage here and a 2-inch height disadvantage, I do believe that the style that she fights in will be able to mask some of those size disadvantages that she has. And the fact that she is a little more defensively responsible here, showing a 65% striking defense to a 48% striking defense for Carolina, makes that very interesting. In terms of the grappling numbers, McCann has gotten 11 takedowns in 7 fights. She's averaging 1.7 takedowns for 15 minutes. But even though she's gotten 11 takedowns, she's accumulated about only 8 minutes of control time off of those 11 takedowns. And she's been controlled at almost a 4-to-1, out-controlled at almost a 4-to-1 ratio in her UFC career, showing very lousy 35% takedown defense and the ability to be able to be controlled on the ground. But for the second straight fight, she pretty much has an opponent that's not going to exploit that weakness, because Luana Carolina has only attempted 1 takedown in 5 UFC fights, and she didn't even get it. So the fact that Molly McCann has a 35% takedown defense and folds like a lawn chair every time somebody tries to take her down is something that probably won't be exploited here in London, and that she's going to be able to keep this a striking match on the feet. And if she walks down Luana Carolina, she can probably make up for the fact that she's not the better technical striker here, that she's, not the one with the better power here either, as Luana Carolina really does have that great Muay Thai style where she throws some nasty elbows and knees. She uses that height in order to manage distance pretty well. And she's, had fighters like Priscilla Cachoeira in her rearview mirror march her down, and we saw her have a lot of success there. And man, she landed a head kick on Priscilla Cachoeira that would have knocked out literally any other woman in the division, except for the Zombie Girl. So I don't expect this fight to go to the ground, because Molly McCann, while she attempts 5 takedowns per fight and gets them at almost a 1/3 clip, and is getting almost 2 takedowns for 15 minutes, we've seen Luana Carolina stop 23 of 26 takedown attempts and showing, an 88.5% takedown defense. Molly McCann has really struggled not only taking girls down, but keeping them down. So I think that Luana in this situation is going to be able to keep the fight standing, which is where she wants it. And then it's going to become a striking battle. If we look at the ratios here in the strength of schedule, they're almost identical. Molly McCann with a slight edge here, fighting the slightly more experienced competition. Molly McCann with a 0.83 ratio, Luana Carolina with a 1.33 ratio in her wins. So, Luana Carolina is beating girls with winning records, while Molly McCann is beating girls with losing records. And it's actually Molly McCann who's losing to the better brand of competition, while Luana Carolina's loss came to it was a fluke loss with a weird knee bar with Ariane Lipsky. So Luana Carolina could easily be 5-0 in the UFC if she hadn't gotten into that weird position. But it is Molly McCann, who, in my opinion, has fought the better competition here, fighting Lipsky, Belbita, Santos, Procopio, and Ji-Yeon Kim. And we see Lupe Godinez on short notice for Luana, Carolina, a win via split decision over Botelho, and then Lipsky, that weird fight, and then a big win over Priscilla Cachoeira, and a nice win over a soccer mom on the Contender Series. So, yeah, this is a very close fight, you guys, but we do see Molly is a kind of a big favorite here at minus 135 to Luana, Carolina plus 115. In this case, if you ask me which line would I take, I would take the plus money here. I really do believe that this is a coin flip. But what is keeping me from betting Luana here, I feel like I would almost need it to be 150, is number one, she's flying from Brazil to London, and Molly's going to be in her backyard. And we see what Molly fights like when she's in her backyard. She's insane. She's fun to watch. She gives it her all. And she's going to do the things, in my opinion, that are going to catch the judges' eyes here. I think Luana, Carolina is the side simply because there's a plus next to her betting number, but I really do have to pick Molly McCann to win this fight. I think she's going to be the one moving forward. I think she's going to be the one screaming, and the crowd's going to be going nuts every time she lands a big shot. I think maybe she gets a takedown here, to help seal a round that's close. I really do think that Molly McCann will do just enough to win this fight, win it by decision, and that is the pick. But let's move on to the next one, you guys. This is one I just got to look into today, a very interesting fight between Gunny Nelson and Takashi Sato. So some of you guys might be saying, Uncle Weezy, where the hell has Gunnar Nelson been? And the answer to that question is that he hasn't fought, you guys, I believe, since 2019. So the last fight was against Gilbert Burns. The date of that fight was September 28th, 2019. So all of 2020 is passed. All of 2021 is passed. And about 2.5 months of 2022 is passed. 2.5 years since we've last seen Gunny Nelson in the cage. He had a rib injury going into the Gilbert Burns fight. After the Burns fight, he let that heal. And then he had evidently hurt another rib over on the other side, maybe two of them, when he was rolling with the Mountain. The Mountain is that big dude from Game of Thrones. Well, there's a video of Gunnar Nelson rolling with him online, and evidently at some point he went for an armbar from the top, and then when he had it, decided to roll to his back to try to finish it, and I guess the Mountain just put his weight on him, and of course, the guy's like 170 kilos or some shit. I mean, it's ridiculous however much that guy weighs, but I guess he hurt Gunny pretty bad. That's why we're only seeing him now. Now, Gunnar Nelson was supposed to fight somebody else here. So let me just go to the Tapology page here real quick and look at the canceled fights, because Takashi Sato is taking this fight on short notice. It was going to be Gunny Nelson who was going to fight Claudio Hannibal Silva, which would have been a really interesting fight because Hannibal Silva is a real tricky grappler as well. But instead, we're going to see him against Takashi Sato. So Gunnar Nelson still only 33 years old, Takashi 31. It's going to be Gunny 1 inch taller. It's going to be Sato with a 1 inch reach advantage. He's the southpaw is Sato. Gunny fighting out of both stances. Takashi fighting out of Sanford MMA these days. Gunnar Nelson out of SBG Ireland. It's Gunnar Nelson 4 more professional fights than Sato and about 45 more minutes in the pro cage and about 6.5 more years as a pro, 9 more UFC level fights, 100 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these guys are fantastic finishers. Gunnar Nelson has finished 16 of 17 wins inside the distance. That is 95%. Takashi Sato has finished 86% of his 15 wins inside the distance. That is 13 of his 15 wins. So 13 and 16 is 29 of these guys. 32 combined wins have been inside the distance. So that is over a 90% finish rate in these guys' combined wins. And Takashi Sato has been finished in all 4 of his losses, while Gunnar Nelson has only been finished in 1 of his 5 losses. That was Santiago Ponzinibbio that knocked him out. 5 of these guys' 9 combined losses have been inside the distance. This is probably a fight that's going to finish inside the distance here. And the inside the distance or fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to minus 210 right now. So the striking numbers. Takashi Sato, a southpaw, got a great straight left down the pipe. He's got a lot of power on it. We see that he has landed 2 knockdowns in only 4 UFC fights, while Gunnar Nelson has landed 1 knockdown in 13 UFC fights. So 0.11 knockdowns per 15 minutes for Gunnar, 1.05 for Sato. So Sato definitely with a power advantage here, but Gunnar Nelson, 57% striking accuracy, only 38% for Takashi Sato. Both these guys striking defense sitting right around 50%. Both of these guys absorb a lot more strikes than they land. And it's Gunnar Nelson who's actually been knocked down 3 times in 13 UFC fights for 0.34 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes, while Sato has never been knocked down. Gunnar Nelson's got that karate style, you guys. He's got a very wide stance. He's in and out. He's switching stances, and he's kind of hard to hurt because because of the karate stance, he hides his body well. He hides his head well, and he moves very well as well. So he's defensively responsible on the feet, but it's his grappling that really sets him apart from other people here. And the problem with Sato is that, you know, he has 4 career losses. 3 of those are by submission. So the guy can be submitted. He's got a judo base, but his Brazilian jiu-jitsu is maybe not quite at great UFC level, is what we'll say. Gunnar Nelson is getting those takedowns at a 55.56% clip, you guys. He's out-controlling his opponents 28% to 16%, showing 66.67% takedown defense in his own right. But we can see Takashi Sato really not a control time guy, getting less than 4% control time in his 4 UFC fights and allowing about 15% control time. So he's getting out-controlled at about a 4.5 to 1 ratio here. So the path for Gunnar here, as long as he's in good shape and is ready to go, it should be pretty easy. Takashi Sato is a guy who has holes in his grappling game, and Gunnar Nelson is not short of striking talent here. It's not like Takashi Sato, we could even say that his striking is much better than Gunnar Nelson's. It might not even be better than Gunnar Nelson's. So Gunnar, the thing we have to worry about here is the layoff, but he's not old, you know. He's only 2 years older than Sato, and he's still only a 33-year-old welterweight. So we do know that he's got some good years left in him. And he's clearly the guy who's fighting the better competition, beating the better competition, and losing to the better competition here. You know, you see losses to guys like Gilbert Burns, Leon Edwards, Santiago Ponzinibbio. Excuse me, you guys. You know, while Baeza and Muhammad are really good losses for Sato, but the wins are over guys like Jason Witt and Ben Saunders, while we see Nelson getting wins over guys like Cowboy Oliveira, Alan Jouban, and these were big wins back in the day. These are guys who had numbers next to their names back when Gunnar Nelson got those wins. So the 2-fight losing streak here is against guys that were getting title shots. So, you know, this really should be Gunnar Nelson is not taking this fight on short notice, and Sato is. Gunnar Nelson's the much better grappler, and we've seen Sato in his 4 losses get subbed in 3 of them. Gunnar's striking is at least at Sato's level, if not better. And, you know, it's one thing to have a full camp and face a guy like Nelson, but now, you know, Sato's taking this fight on like a week's notice, and then he's got to prepare for an unorthodox karate-style striker in Gunnar Nelson, who uses those entries where he's kind of like coiled like a snake and then just goes in order to set up his takedowns. And then on the ground, I mean, he can survive with just about anybody. I believe he even survived on the ground with Demian Maia, if I'm not mistaken, or was that his only loss inside the distance? No, he's been knocked out. That's the only knockout loss was to Ponzinibbio. So he even, you know, could last on the ground with Demian Maia. So I just think that it should be Gunnar Nelson however he wants it. The Gunnar Nelson by submission is probably the way to play it, but I think it's probably juice to the tits, you guys. Let's have a look-see. Gunnar Nelson by submission, or Gunnar Nelson inside the distance. Yeah, it's minus 110 by submission. Inside the distance is about minus 135 on DraftKings. So I would just play him inside the distance if that's how you were looking to get this line from minus 450 down to minus 135. That's the way I would do it because Sato has 4 career losses. He's been finished inside the distance in all 4 of them, and this is a short notice fight. He's either coming from Japan or coming from Florida all the way to London here on short notice to fight a very unorthodox guy that's very well-rounded and has fought some of the best welterweights that the UFC has ever seen. So, yeah, like Gunnar Nelson here quite a bit. Love him to get it done inside the distance. The official bet here will be Gunnar Nelson inside the distance at minus 135, you guys. Next fight, Paddy Pimblett. One of the great Tapology pictures. Let's just get it up here while I put up our little ticker so that we can enjoy. And let's see, we got the banners here. Paddy Pimblett minus 450, squaring off against Kazula Vargas plus 350. Fight doesn't go to decision. Minus 260 for this fight. Look at Paddy there, getting his arm raised. Beautiful head of hair. So let's see what we got here, you guys. Paddy Pimblett is 9 years younger. That is statistically significant. 2 inches taller and has a 2-inch reach advantage. It's Vargas, who is a southpaw. Paddy Pimblett, more experienced, despite the fact that he's 9 years younger. He's actually got 4 more pro fights, 48 more minutes in the pro cage, but it's Vargas who's had 1 more year as a pro. But we see less than 2 fights per year for Kazula Vargas, while Paddy Pimblett well over 2 fights a year. Kazula Vargas a little more UFC experience with 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. Vargas, a 83% finish rate in 12 wins, 10 of his 12 wins coming inside the distance, 7 by knockout, 3 by sub. And then we've got Paddy Pimblett with a 76% finish rate. So I guess that would be 13 of those 17 wins coming inside the distance. That would be 7 by submission, 6 by knockout. And then we see that in these guys, 7 combined losses, only 2 of them have come inside the distance. Paddy Pimblett has been subbed once, and Kazula Vargas has been subbed once. In the UFC, Paddy Pimblett in only 1 fight, landing 10.64, absorbing 5.66, landing a knockdown, also getting cracked as well, showing chin way up in the air. Paddy Pimblett doesn't care. He trusts his chin. And then Kazula Vargas here landing 3.85 and only absorbing 1.88, 53% striking accuracy, no knockdowns, and he's never been knocked down, and showing a little more defensive responsibility on the feet is Kazula Vargas than Paddy Pimblett. Vargas 1 of 4 on his takedowns. He's been taken down 6 of the 8 times, though, that he's been shot on. So that's a problem. Paddy Pimblett is a black belt and a very, very good grappler. Like I say, more than half of his finished wins are by submission, and Kazula Vargas in his only finished loss has been submitted. So I really do see a path here for Paddy on the feet and on the ground to get this done inside the distance. But Kazula Vargas is a guy who really will throw heat as well. So the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 260. Feels like a very safe parlay piece as well for this fight. But I don't want to spend too much time on this one. Paddy's 9 years younger. He's more experienced. He's the far better grappler. And then you see that massive hole in Vargas's game there where he's allowed 43% control time against and shown 25% takedown defense over a 3-fight UFC sample size. So Paddy, if he doesn't like how it's going on the feet, I think he can take this thing to the ground and he could probably get a submission over Kazula Vargas, who has not looked great on the ground thus far in the UFC. Not much in the way of the strength of schedule numbers here, you guys, but neither one of these guys is fighting or beating world beaters at the UFC level. But Kazula Vargas fighting in Combate prior to the UFC. Paddy Pimblett was actually a Cage Warriors champion for a while, fighting guys like Erosa, like Soren Bach. A little bit better competition than what Vargas was fighting on the regional scene here. I will pick Paddy Pimblett to win by submission, either in round 1 or 2. But I don't think I'm going to be parlaying Paddy Pimblett this week. I'm just going to be enjoying what should be a really fun performance here by an up-and-coming star. Like I say, he's got that Children of the Damned haircut. You got to love that. You got to love the fact that you can't understand a word that this dude says, but you should be smiling at whatever he does say. I'd love to see him get an interpreter out there for him, but that's not my spot to say. But I can't wait for this fight. It's going to be Paddy Pimblett. I'm picking him to win inside the distance. Can't wait to see it, you guys. Next fight is a fight that I'm planning on doing a balls deep breakdown on before I go live on Pub Sports Radio for the DFS show tomorrow, you guys. So Arnold Allen, Dan Hooker, look for a link to my channel for a balls deep breakdown for this fight, because I don't think this fight has been getting nearly enough shine this week. These are two amazing featherweights here. Can't wait to see them square off. It's Arnold Allen, who is 4 years younger here. He's going to be the -120 favorite, while Hooker is the underdog at +100. Fight doesn't go. Plus money here at +125. So Hooker going to be the much bigger dude here. 4 inches taller, 5-inch reach advantage. Fights out of both stances, while Arnold is a southpaw. Out of city kickboxing for Hooker, but it's going to be Arnold Allen, the hometown boy here, while Dan Hooker will be coming, I believe, all the way from New Zealand. So definitely, that home field advantage is something that we really have to kind of take into account with all of these fights. If one fighter is from England and the other one isn't, how far are they flying in? When are they flying in? How long are they going to be able to get acclimated and deal with the jet lag that inevitably comes with, like, a flight from Brazil to the UK, or a flight from New Zealand to the UK, or from California to the UK, or even from Florida to the UK? That's like, a six-hour difference. So it does make a difference. It's something that we have to be aware of. And Dan's coming from a ways away to fight Arnold Allen here. But it's Dan Hooker who has that huge size advantage and who has a big-time experience advantage with 14 more professional fights, almost 100 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 3 more years as a pro, 10 more UFC-level fights, about 70 more minutes in the UFC cage. In terms of finish rates, he's the much better finisher, is Hooker, finishing at a 81% rate over 21 professional wins. That's 17 of his 21 wins coming inside the distance, while Arnold Allen has a 53% finish rate over his 17 wins. We've got Dan Hooker has been finished in 45% of his 11 losses, 5 of his 11 losses coming inside the distance. Arnold Allen only has 1 loss on his pro record, and it was by decision. So Arnold Allen, over an 8-fight sample size in the UFC, is landing 2.96 significant strikes a minute, only absorbing 2.15. He throws more volume, lands at about a 40.5% clip, and is averaging 0.89% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed. That comes out to 3 knockdowns over 8 UFC fights, averaging to 0.39 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Arnold Allen showing impeccable 66% striking defense. It's about as good as it gets for the division. Dan Hooker lands more than he absorbs. He's a little more accurate than Allen, landing at 48%, and is almost as powerful as Allen as well, but landing more knockdowns for 15 minutes than Arnold Allen is. He's been knocked down twice in 18 fights, but Dan Hooker is about as tough as they come. But he does show a lot less defensive responsibility here, 52% striking defense in comparison to Arnold Allen's 66% striking defense. In terms of how these guys grapple, Dan Hooker has done a nice job winning minutes on the ground, out-controlling his opponents at about a 2-to-1 ratio, despite the fact that Dan Hooker's opponents have attempted 66 takedowns and Dan Hooker has only attempted 30. So very defensively responsible with a 78% takedown defense. Really one of the only guys that we've seen, really dominate Hooker on the ground was Islam Makhachev. But other than that, Dan has been very good at stopping takedowns, at keeping the fight standing when he wants to, and getting takedowns at a 36.67% clip when he wants them, and showing the ability to attempt less takedowns than his opponents, but still out-control them at a better than a 2-to-1 ratio. Arnold Allen is also doing a pretty good job of winning minutes on the ground, as we see that he's only attempted 22 takedowns, but his opponents have attempted 51. So his opponents are attempting more than 2 takedowns for every one that Allen attempts, but yet they're really only out-controlling him by 2% on the aggregate. So Allen has been efficient as well. And he's getting his takedowns at a 50% clip, but not really holding people down, as I would say 11.4. So about 22 minutes of control time on 11 takedowns for Arnold Allen, and about 37 minutes of control time on 11 takedowns for Dan Hooker. So Dan Hooker is the better minute winner out on the ground, I would say here, you guys. And probably the bigger submission threat as well, as he's finished 33% of his pro wins by submission, while it's 24% for Arnold Allen. If we look at the strength of schedule here, this is where we see Dan Hooker having that advantage. Fighting the better competition, the more experienced competition, beating the better competition and more experienced competition, and losing the guys with a record of 8.14 and 4.57, 12.71 total fights, and a 1.78 win-to-loss ratio. We see names like Felder, Poirier, Chandler, Hackbrast, and Islam. While for Arnold Allen, it's Sadiq Youssef, Nick Lentz, the 1-6 Gilbert Melendez in the UFC, Jordan Rinaldi, and Mats Burnell. So big step up in competition for Arnold Allen. Big experience and strength of schedule advantage here for Dan Hooker. Big size advantage for Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is the better finisher. Dan Hooker's got that huge length that he could win minutes on the feet by, managing distance. And he switches stances so that he can maybe be defensively responsible while he's on the feet here against Arnold Allen, somebody that's very defensively responsible in his own right. I think that this is a very close fight. I like Dan Hooker. I think he should be like minus 130, minus 140. But when you factor in the fact that he's flying God knows how many hours from New Zealand to the UK, while Arnold Allen is fighting in his own backyard, and Dan Hooker making this cut back down to 145 pounds for the first time in a long time, you guys. The last time we saw Dan Hooker at 145 was Jason Knight back in 2016. So all of 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, over 5 full years since we've seen Dan Hooker cut back to 145 pounds. So when you add in the weight cut, when you add in the long flight, when you add in the fact that this is another road fight, another fight where you're not in front of your home crowd, and Arnold Allen is, the fact that Allen's younger, I think that this is a very fair line. Wow, this is such a good fight. I'm going to pick Dan Hooker to win this fight. I really think that, this is a winnable fight for him. The fights that he's been losing are against guys that I think Arnold Allen hasn't proved he's as good as these guys yet. And if he beats Dan Hooker on Saturday, then that will be that next step that he needs to take for an undefeated guy in the UFC and Arnold Allen. He's going to need to beat a guy like Hooker at some point in order to get a chance to get into that top 10, to get into that top 5, and really start to see the kind of fights that could change his life. I like Hooker here. I think he does get this done, but there's a lot of things that are going against him that wouldn't have me betting him. And that's the time zone change, the long flight, the cut back down to 145. I think those are huge things fighting in Arnold Allen's backyard. It's enough to get me to not bet him here, but the pick will be Dan Hooker by decision. That brings us to the main event, you guys. We're a little bit under 2 hours in here. There's 56 of you guys hanging out on a late Tuesday night with your Uncle Weezy, breaking down this awesome UFC London card. If you haven't big up that thumbs up button, please do that. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do that. If you haven't subscribed to the new MMA Engine YouTube channel, please take the time to do that and check out the content that we're providing over there as well. Some really great stuff. So all those things, please do all of those things. And please check out the links that are available in the description of this video to the free stats, to Stat Diggers, to the main event deep dive that me and DFS by the Numbers did on the MMA Engine channel, to the other Balls Deep breakdown I did this week on the MMA Engine channel. Check out all that shit. But next, we've got the main event, you guys. And I did a very deep dive on this with DFS by the Numbers on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. Check that out. The main event, Volkov versus Aspinall. Basically a coin flip here, you guys. We've got a really good one. Aspinall, 5 years younger. It's going to be Volkov, who's at least 2 inches taller, probably 5 inches taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage here. So Volkov's going to have the size advantage. Volkov's going to have the experience advantage. Volkov's going to have the UFC experience advantage and the strength of schedule advantage. We see that more than 300 more minutes in the pro cage for Volkov. Almost 30 more fights for Volkov. Over 5.5 more years as a pro for Volkov. 6 more UFC level fights for Volkov. 160 more minutes in the UFC cage for Volkov. So big advantages there. 100% finish rate for Tom Aspinall and 11 wins. So we've never seen him win a decision. We've never seen him go to the scorecards. While Volkov has won 73% of his 33 wins have been inside the distance, 64% by knockout, 9% by sub. So that means he's got a 27% win rate by decision. He's been finished in 4 of his 9 losses, while Tom Aspinall has been finished in 1 loss and I believe disqualified in another one. The striking numbers. Tom Aspinall is going to have a big-time speed advantage here, you guys. He's got seriously fast hands for a heavyweight. He's incredibly athletic for a heavyweight, got a great frame and a ton of power. His stand-up is nasty. 7.19 significant strikes landed per minute, only 2.37 absorbed, 65% striking accuracy, landing a knockdown on 2.5% of the significant strikes that he lands. I mean, that's 2 knockdowns in 4 fights and then 2.73 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Video game numbers in the striking realm for Aspinall. And don't forget about the 70% striking defense. Now, Volkov showing 56% striking accuracy. He's landed 3 knockdowns in 10 UFC fights. He's getting 0.27 knockdowns for 15 minutes. He's been knocked down twice in 10 UFC fights and is allowing 0.18 knockdowns for 15 minutes, but not nearly as defensively responsible as Volkov at 54.72% striking defense. Volkov's going to need to keep moving here. He's not going to want to let Aspinall get inside and throw those hands and land him on his face, because 54% striking defense is not good enough against a guy as fast and that hits as hard as Tom Aspinall here. So Volkov's going to really have to use his feet, really move, use those front kicks to the body in order to manage distance, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. And I would really love to see Alexander Volkov with more than 1 takedown attempt per fight. That's something that really bothers me. And less than 7% control time over a 10-fight sample size is very concerning, because every minute that Tom Aspinall is dangerous on the feet is going to be a very difficult minute for his opponents to survive. The guy's hands are just too fast and he's too powerful at this size. If anything lands, you're going to be in serious trouble. Aspinall has gotten 2 of his 2 takedown attempts, and he's shown 100% takedown defense thus far in the UFC. But if you watch the regional scene footage on him from a while back, you will see that, people can take this guy down and hold him down. But that's really not Volkov's game. 168 minutes in the UFC cage, it looks like he's gotten less than, I would say, 10 minutes of control time out of 168. So to see him winning minutes and doing it consistently over a 5-round, fight against a guy as dangerous as Aspinall, who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, in addition to being, a very good boxer. But here's the problem, you guys. Tom Aspinall's average fight time is 5.27 minutes over a 13-fight sample size. And in the UFC, over a 4-fight sample size, his average fight time is 2.75 minutes. So this is a 5-round fight. So what happens if it gets out of the first round? What happens now if it's what happens if it gets out of the second round? How is Tom Aspinall, somebody that's that fast, somebody that relies on that athleticism, on that explosiveness, on that speed, is he going to slow down? And if he does, does Volkov, getting into that slow, plodding kickboxing match that he's been a master of getting into that style of fight for a long period of time, is he going to take over in the later rounds if Aspinall doesn't get him out of there early? The fact that Tom Aspinall has a 5.27 minute average fight time and that this is a 5-round heavyweight fight, that makes fight doesn't go to decision very, very interesting, you guys. The fight doesn't go to decision for this main event is sitting right now at about minus 200-ish. You could get it at minus 175 on DraftKings. And that's very curious to me. For a guy with 2.5 minutes average fight time in the UFC in Aspinall over a 4-fight sample size, to suggest that this thing, has over a 35 or 36% chance to go to decision in a 5-round fight, to me, yikes. I think fight doesn't go to decision here at minus 175 is a very good bet. I mean, Aspinall is incredibly dangerous. And if you throw out the Topuria fight, look at how good of a finisher Volkov's been recently. He's getting wins by finish. He finished, let's see here. He knocked out Overeem. He knocked out Harris. He got the decision win against Topuria, but that was on Fight Island. And I think a lot of guys have looked like absolute garbage on Fight Island because I think it's just a weird place to fight and nobody really gets into a rhythm there. But, you guys, this is a very interesting fight. Volkov is bigger. He's way more experienced. He's fought the way better brand of competition. The striking and the grappling, the striking could be Volkov, because he's got that size. He's a very interesting type of opponent to try to prepare for. It's hard to find 6'10" heavyweights, that have good straight punches and have a decent amount of power and hit hard and are as experienced as Alexander Volkov. So this is going to be a very interesting step up in competition here for Aspinall. I love the fight doesn't go to decision. That will be a tracked bet for me this week at minus 175 for sure. I'm going to probably bet that as soon as I get off the stream here with you guys. But the metrics here are very interesting for Volkov. I love the size advantage. I love the experience advantage. I love the strength of schedule advantage. And I love the fact that I think that Volkov is probably just as good on the ground as Tom Aspinall and very difficult to deal with down there because of his length. And I like Volkov's ability to win minutes in a striking battle over a 5-round fight better than I like Aspinall. So I think at plus money, the pick is going to be Alexander Volkov, you guys. But the bet, because I'm not confident that Volkov wins this fight, because I could easily see Tom Aspinall starching him in the first or second like he's done to every other opponent thus far in the UFC, the fight doesn't go to decision will be the official bet for this fight. And you guys, here we are at 1 hour and 59 minutes into Just the Tip. We've broken down all 13 fights on this banger of a UFC London card. And that means, you guys, we got time for one more thing here, you guys. One more order of business to attend to. Who's it going to be? Who's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week going to be? I mean, there's a lot of good choices. Now, I mean, like Volkov, Aspinall's a pick'em. Alan Hooker's a pick'em. Probably not picking somebody to shave ass, but somebody like Paddy Pimblett should absolutely be able to shave ass here. Gunnar Nelson getting Takashi Sato on short notice. He should be able to shave ass. McCann Carolina is going to be close. Dude, if Topuria gets Jai Herbert to the ground, he should be able to shave ass. If Topuria gasses out because it's short notice, or because if he can't handle a much bigger opponent at 155 when he was already kind of a small featherweight, Jai Herbert could knock him out. Grundy Amirkhani, I think, is going to be close. I mean, Abdurakhimov, Pavlovich, that's absolutely a possibility here. Krylov, Craig, I think it's very close, so I can't pick that. Close. McKenna Reed, boy, I like McKenna a lot here. I like Wood a lot. I like Mokaev a lot. But you guys, who's it going to be, huh? Marcus Mustard wants to know. You know, Aiden's saying Cory. And I like Cory McKenna, and I've got a bet on her. So, I mean, that's a definite possibility. My guy Papa Chuck saying, get out your razors because it's about that time. And it's got to be a clean shaving, no stubbles. Let's go. Who's it going to be? Well, you guys, I'll tell you who it's going to be. It's going to be a guy with a head like a fire hydrant, with an 84-inch reach to, I mean, unfortunately shave the ass of a very handsome man wearing a lovely sports jacket here in Shamil Abdurakhimov. Let's get that beautiful face of his up here on the screen, you guys. Shamil Abdurakhimov in that beautiful sport coat with that regional scene belt over your shoulder. But what's underneath that regional scene belt over his shoulder is a punctured lung. The punctured lung of a 40-year-old man that's going to get his ass shaved by the returning Sergei Pavlovich. You guys, Sergei Pavlovich shaving the ass of my guy, Shamil Abdurakhimov, to make it not one, but 2 times in a row that I'm going to put Shamil Abdurakhimov on the wrong side of Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, because Chris Dawkins got it done for me at the end of last year for Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week when he shaved Abdurakhimov. And I believe that Sergei Pavlovich will do exactly what Chris Dawkins did here and knock out Shamil Abdurakhimov either in the late first round or the early second round. You guys, Sergei Pavlovich is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. You guys, we've been on 2 hours. I've been watching fights all day. It's time for me to sign off, but it's also time for me to thank each and every one of you guys for spending the last 2 hours of your life with your Uncle Weezy, breaking down all 13 fights on this absolute banger of a UFC London card. You guys, God bless each and every one of you, and let's stack cashed tickets like flapjacks for UFC London. I will see you right here on my channel, 5 o'clock Central Time tomorrow for a balls deep breakdown on the Arnold Allen Dan Hooker fight. And until then, you guys, have a fantastic night. Sleep well. I will see you tomorrow. And let's make a ton of money on UFC London.